Hello and very good morning to you, and welcome to Newsline, broadcasting live from the Newsfirst studios here in Dawson Road, Colombo. And we're joined this morning, as usual, by our former diplomat and senior journalist, Bandula Jayasekara. And very good morning to you,
Morning
Bandula.
to you, fellas.
And how are you today?
Good.
The white shirt
continuing
today.
with blue.
Indeed. And we're also joined this morning by the new Defence Secretary, Mr. Karunasena Hettiarachchi. Good morning, Defence Secretary. And thank you very much for being on our network. And for the record, many congratulations on your appointment. And we wish you all the very best in your new job.
Thank you very much.
And as always, we are grateful for all our guests who turn up at very early hours of the morning here. Nevertheless, Mr. Defence Secretary, tell me, we noticed that about this UN consensual resolution, we noticed yesterday in the press that the government of Sri Lanka are going to be paying the legal fees of people who may be accused by this hybrid court on matters. And on the other side, therefore, doesn't it give an impression that there is some, even if it's tacit agreement, that there's something went wrong during that time? If that is the case, why go through this almost charade to the foreigners that we need a court and we need an inquiry, but when you come back to Sri Lanka, you say to your people, well, don't worry, chaps, but we'll pay for your defense. Why go through? Who's fooling whom, do you think, here, Defence Secretary?
I don't know about this particular statement or the press release about, you know, looking after well, let's say the culprit or the accused, right?
Yeah.
So what the government position, as far as I know, is that they are going to conduct a credible inquiry. Government is going to support such inquiry, and it will be sometimes with some foreign the prosecutors and the lawyers and so forth. So I also suggested that foreign judges or Commonwealth judges and all sort of discussions are going on, but still nothing finalized yet. I don't know about this. The government is going to pay the legal fees of such people who have been accused in this particular incidents. But what government want to know the truth and what really happened and work accordingly.
But still, why should we allow foreigners to come and prosecute our own people? Can't we? You know, now I think there's a change in the judiciary. There's much more respect and independence. Why can't we do it on our own?
Yeah, definitely we have the capacity, we have the credibility in doing such things, and we have been conducting now inquiry about those 5 cases which you all know, this Eknaligoda and so forth. The inquiries are being conducted, and those things will be done in our normal legal system. And I hope that this will show the world that we can do credible inquiries and give the justice and settle these matters.
We have, of course, the people of Sri Lanka have given an opportunity for the world to see that Sri Lanka is committed to change by the fact that we have a new government in place and, of course, a new president in place. So that's why we are a little bit puzzled as members of the public when we see what is essentially appears to be a two-sided thing. On the one side you say, yes, we need this inquiry. On the other side you come back home and you say, well, you know, we're with you, we'll pay your legal bills. A bit anomalous. However, Bandula, shall we touch on this very touchy subject?
Your favorite subject?
Well, it's not so favorite. But what I want to say, Defence Secretary, is that when we followed this matter of avant-garde maritime services, what appears to be anomalous is that there are other companies in Sri Lanka who operate a similar service, but it appears that avant-garde has a monopoly granted by the Ministry of Defence, no less. Are you taking steps to correct this situation?
Of course, we are actually now under consideration the agreements that the Lanka has signed with avant-garde. Ratna Lanka is not the government of Sri Lanka. It's an institution coming under my ministry. So therefore, I think they may have various agreements, and the validity of such agreement also need to be looked into. There are certain flaws and lapses in the agreements, because generally agreements should see that how, there are certain areas that we are touched, particularly the termination conditions of these agreements have not been stipulated, force measure and various kinds of conditions I have not seen in those agreements. Therefore, I would say this kind of agreement which need to have a fresh look at it and then renegotiate those things. That is subject for the Ratna Lanka and Avantgarde and subject to the approval of the Ministry of Defence. So that's the answer that I could give for that.
Well, it's very encouraging that you are committed to this, to making the necessary changes. But that brings...
I didn't touch on the monopoly point of view. That's correct. It's a monopoly.
Yeah.
And there were so many operators in these areas, particularly the sourcing the sea marshals, and those things were done in the past, but there have some, they have been, or rather say that they are out of the business. Some people, about 25-30 companies.
Yeah.
So we are reconsidering that matter by the ministry, and also there are some requests. Also some other parties want to have floating armories, and they are making discussions with us. So that will be subject to the approval of the Defence Minister.
Yeah.
And we'll look into that and see everybody get the equal opportunity.
And do you foresee perhaps a situation where the Sri Lankan Navy might get involved in the provision of these services, as indeed they did when this service became, when there was a need for this service right at the beginning?
Well, I think even now the Navy is involved in the business in a way that providing security and looking after the interests of the country, and they are actually patrolling and seeing whether these vessels are doing the right thing. And this is under the the regulations of the Navy. And as far as I see, what Navy could do is the storing and providing arms to the sea marshals. That part of the business Navy can handle. But Navy also involved in Navy, and Ratna Lanka and STF is involved in training those sea marshals. So those things can continue like that, and this is a kind of a concerted effort of several parties.
But if Navy and our forces takes full control, the money, whatever it comes to the government of Sri Lanka, then rather than going to a private party.
I look at it at a different point of view, right? Because I should think like you are talking about. But as a responsible citizen of this country, I think who does business, there are certain business that the government can do. There are certain business that the private sector should do. So we should identify which area to be done by the private sector without having some implications of the complications on the security of the country. So that is the very important part that as the Defence Ministry we look into.
The Avantgarde matter, I'm sorry to keep going on about this, but it is as important as the central bond scandal because of the level of money is involved. We understand that this company has also been given a contract of sorts, or permission, to carry out training, and this includes weapons training. And their website carries photographs of all these matters. Is it rather odd that a private company has been given permission to carry out weapons training? What do you have to say about that, Defence Secretary?
I think as far as I know, it's Ratna Lanka and the STF, they provide that training. I don't think that the Avantgarde is providing that training. Perhaps they not the arms training, but sea marshals conduct and the behavior and kind of things, orientation of these people may have done by them, but I don't think that they have the authority to conduct the arms training.
We've seen copies of letters that this company has written to the then Additional Secretary of the Ministry of Defence, in which it's almost a cosy relationship, in which they they confirm that they are sending their proposal and that they will engage in this. And in fact, their website actually says that there are various types of training, and the first of these trainings starts at, I think, $350 a day. My point is this, that it is technically therefore possible, is it not, for some foreigner or anyone actually to turn up into Sri Lanka and pay their money and get training. And then the next thing we may find is that when the Americans or the British or whoever are patrolling in the ISIS areas, they may then capture somebody who then confirms that he was trained in weapons training in none other than Sri Lanka. And then the Foreign Ministry will have a lot of work on their hands to overcome that problem.
Yeah, I think what you say is correct, because particularly we have to take two things. One is the Sri Lankan people going as sea marshals. They have been trained here through Lanka and other forces. They are helping them in doing that. And secondly, when foreigners come, now earlier there was some kind of screening done. It is not sufficient, because therefore we need to see various kinds of terrorist organizations are around, right? Say ISIS or Al-Qaeda, and those people also can come. And so therefore we have strictly instructed now for the relevant authorities to have a screening of such people and to get the credentials from the respective embassies whether these people are people without any criminal record or terrorist record. So this we have already taken that action and informed them.
Right.
In future training they cannot train the foreigners unless they get the approval. Now only they check the passport number, name and address and that kind of thing. That is not sufficient.
No.
So we have reinforced those procedures now.
Let's see. That augurs well, doesn't it?
Definitely. I mean, but again, now you're talking about, I think in Afghanistan, the US forces, they use private people, in the past.
Indeed.
And then, of course, there were issues later, but this is what maybe like, but they were all ex-forces people.
Indeed. How much do you think, in terms of this controversy about avant-garde and Lanka, how much of this do you think is jealousy on the part of others? Because this business is supposed to be worth billions and billions of rupees. And I have a claim from a former senior official who says that this is all nothing but jealousy. True? False?
I think it's false, because it's not jealousy. It's a kind of thing that, I mean, if I understood
right.
They have the right to get into the business if they are qualified and if they are capable and if they have the capacity to invest in various, instruments in doing this business.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Just touching on finance, as I like to. Can you tell me, this company, they don't appear to be able to manage their own finances. Then how, Defense Secretary, can we expect them to keep a control and a check on the weapons that have been, in essence, entrusted to them by the government of Sri Lanka?
Weapons are not entrusted them, because weapons belongs to Lanka.
Right.
Right? And Lanka provide weapons for the sea marshals.
Yeah.
Right? In this operation, the importance of what you call floating armory is to supply and take over the weapons when the ships are passing through. So they have custody of our weapons, and there is a very good record system to see that these weapons are intact and they're not being used for any other purpose.
I see. All right. I think
if you take the local security companies, they also have weapons, right?
Yeah.
They also use weapons to provide security to various companies and the banks and so forth.
Yeah.
So therefore, I think that there's nothing new in this, lending the arms of the government for a particular purpose, or they can buy it.
Indeed.
After obtaining the license.
Is Lanka audited by their accounts audited by the Auditor General?
Lanka account subject to the Auditor General's the reviews. Right, because it's coming under the ministry.
Right.
So at first, I think sometimes they do the private accountants, accounting companies.
Yeah.
They do the accounting and then submit to the ministry, and then we send to the Auditor General subject to his approval.
But they seem to be having a very lax accounting system because they are owed vast sums of money by their partner, Avant-Garde. Are you taking steps to recover these monies?
I think they have negotiated the repayment plan for the dues that should go to Lanka.
Yeah.
I think they have agreed on certain basis to pay it, but I really can't understand when you do business, you must do it then and there and finish the account at least within 1 month or so.
Yeah.
So that we have to strengthen if you are going to continue with Avant-Garde, how we are going to do the future business.
But when are we going to put this to rest? We are going on about Avant-Garde, Lanka. When are we going to put this to rest and people will get answers? Will it take time, on this Avant-Garde issue?
Well, I think we cannot rush on certain matters because there are, complications, and we have referred this matter to the Attorney General, and also we are getting private legal advice by the Lanka company how we should go beyond this point onwards.
Right.
But can you honestly say what was this Avant-Garde ship doing with arms, with the Ukrainian as captain of it?
Yes. I think, they wanted to come to Sri Lanka, or one of the ports in Colombo, Sri Lanka, and they have started from port of Sudan, and in the Red Sea they came across and then came very close to Sri Lanka, right? Generally, if you are going to do this kind of operation, they need to get the permission of the Ministry of Defence, and they should get the clearance. But in this instance, they have not got before they set forth.
I see.
Right? And that's a basic violation of our procedures. Right? Mm-hmm. Secondly, once the ship was very close to, almost in the very close to the the territorial waters, Sri Lankan territorial waters, they send a letter to us to get approval. So there was some delays in the ministry, and somehow we got it, and we approved it on 6th of October, the operation that they have requested. That time we were misled by this company and the captain of the ship. Right? They have not informed the Navy or the port of Colombo about their arrival in advance before they set forth. So this is almost all these things are in record, as well as they never declared that they have weapons in the vessel. Right. And they said that they want to unload or offload 3 sea marshals. So that's generally you can do it, no problem. Even you can unload the arms also subject to the approval of the Ministry of Defence under the surveillance of the Sri Lankan Navy. Right. So that is what happened, and also the Ukrainian captain is not stated in their documentation. In their documentation, it's a Sri Lankan captain, one Captain Nanakara name was there. So these are all misleading the government and the Ministry of Defence. So that's a very serious offence that they have committed. So we'll be taking legal action accordingly.
And this captain, I have an email which this captain has sent to his agents, in which he admits that the Sri Lankan Navy, having intercepted them, had asked them to stop and actually to move into territorial waters from the contiguous waters that they were in. And the captain, in his email to his agents, quite blatantly says that he decided not to stop and he continued to steam until, and again by his own admission, the Sri Lankan Navy surrounded his vessel, and he had no option but to then stop and down anchor and so on. And it sounds to me as that a major disaster has been averted, because obviously the Sri Lankan Navy could have fired at them or done something more quite drastic like that, and that would have been another international incident, all because this captain didn't follow the instructions of the Sri Lankan Navy.
That's right.
Is there a possibility that you all may be looking at some legal action against him? Because he must be in breach of some law.
Yeah, I think we are certainly doing it, and I have already instructed the Navy to take care of this matter and go with the report to the police and then to take up the case.
Right. I want to have one other question for you. Can you tell me, why has the defense budget gone up? We've got no war. Why is the defense budget up?
I didn't compare the budget with the previous budget, but I know I got a certain budget which I don't have the figures now to talk about you.
Okay.
But defense, during the war, only you need some ammunition and the weaponry, right? Mm-hmm. But during this period also, we have not compromised on the security of the country.
Yeah.
So we need to keep the forces going and strengthen our capacity in all fronts of the security. I think that in my previous occasion, I told you that defense is only not fighting war.
Indeed.
Right?
Indeed.
It is to see the security, even food security, right? There's a role that the military can play.
Yeah.
There is economic security.
And
development security. Some of the developments are not being, perused by the defense ministry, so there can be some defense implication of some of the investments and the development in the country. So we would look into that, but that doesn't mean that we can justify the increase. No. But when you say last year to this year, if it is a 10% increase, that is, the cost has gone up by 10%.
Of
right?
course, yes.
Yeah? And other matters I'll look into seriously and give you a comment on the I don't know, they have ventured into new some of the things, like I don't want to divulge certain things.
No.
Strengthen the Army, Air Force and Navy. It's very important because we have some of the machinery that we have need to be upgraded to give, do the surveillance work. So those things will come in the next year, but we will discuss, because some of the information we don't want to share that much on.
We understand that, but I would urge you to share as much information as you can on, especially on this network and on other networks too, because we have this morning a report in one of the newspapers that we, the media, are being accused of placing underneath the carpet or sweeping it underground this matter on avant-garde. And as far as we know, we have, of course, brought to the attention of the public and to public officials all matters that are within our knowledge. So the more you share with us on this network and on other networks, but I hope it's on this network, the better it is for the media as a whole, so that we won't be accused of not covering a certain aspect or another. So we hope, Defense Secretary, that you will continue to accept our invitations to come and share this information.
And also for us now going back, now so you're talking of that Ukrainian captain, and that was misleading, that it was to be Captain Nanakkara, but it was somebody else. But I mean, do you think they had a hidden agenda in that? Why were they misleading?
I really can't understand, if you tell the Ukrainian captain and we are coming with so many weapons and get the permission, there's no reason that we can, reject that approval, right? We could have given. I really can't understand why they do it like that, right? But I think this is not the right way to transport weapons. That's my feeling, where I got it from my officials, the floating armories should not carry weapons from one port to the other port. It is there to do the transaction of providing or the supplying weapons to the passing ships.
Whilst being in international waters.
Right. So if there are maybe other reasons that they need to go to another port and airlift those things, and that's going to cost some money, right?
Indeed.
Probably they would have put some other reason and came to our Sri Lankan waters, right? and to unload this weapon that's cheaper for the company.
Yes.
Maybe the reason, I don't know.
Well.
But we have to look into that very seriously, why they do that, and in future we should stop all such things. So otherwise we have to regularize that kind of thing.
Indeed.
Right?
And another matter, a viewer has sent us in. Why is it that there are still some MPs who have in effect private armies? Shouldn't they be done away with and confiscate their automatic weapons? If there is security threat for them, provide them with appropriate protection. So why arm them, I think is what our viewer is saying.
Well, I think that is not coming under my purview, but anyway, it's a matter for the security of the country. Need to be discussed with the relevant authorities, because MPs' security is provided by and regulated by the Ministry Security Divisions.
Right.
Right? And also the President's Security Division, look into the security of the President, so forth. So therefore, maybe I will, I am not sure whether, I have no information that private people are armed with automatic weapons and providing security. I have not seen any of those MPs who are coming with that, So maybe, I don't know, maybe wrong information probably for us,
Indeed, we will put our investigative cap on and we will provide more details to you. But there's also one other matter which appears to be a growing problem, and I'm wondering whether you can nip it in the bud. And this is an item in the Daily News, I think it was yesterday, in which they say that various websites are propping up and engaging in blackmailing their targets. And it's a double-sided sword, isn't it? On the one side, if you ban websites, then you're accused of trying to control the media. But when you open up that, then you have the situation where some of these websites are using
defamatory
messages, and they don't do anything.
And they're very scurrilous websites.
Indeed. Any
I think there was one case reported yesterday or day before to the police, and police are conducting inquiries into that. So I will request the public, if you have any case like that, to report to the police department or even to the Ministry of Defence, and we will take care of that one and try to start investigation on such websites.
Indeed.
And if they are done that one, so we can ban that particular one.
Yes.
I don't know whether technology is available to ban.
But they operated from overseas.
This is the problem.
So at least we can tell those countries through our diplomatic channels, and these people are operating in your soil, right? And then we have a bit of a problem on these things. I know one website is operating from UK and US and various places. So we need to look into that matter and use the technology, how best we could deal with that. But locally, if there is any threat to any person with regard to blackmailing, and they should report to us or the police.
Very quickly, talking about these sort of private armies, it's like the paramilitary force used by Karuna, the EPDP leader. Those are the matters that come to fore. Our regular viewers reminded me that that's what he is talking about.
Okay, I think I need to look into that problem seriously and then discuss with the police department and the Ministry Security Division, and if they don't have adequate forces, we can reinforce them with the government forces, STF or anything, but generally we don't want to
include even some Colombo-based politicians.
Indeed. Well, Defence Secretary Karunasena Hettiarachchi, thank you ever so much for being on our network. It's been a delight having you since 5:30 this morning. I trust that Bandula looked after you earlier. Thank you very much, and we look forward very much to having you on our network yet again.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure in joining you in this kind of discussions, just to update the public on the current affairs of the Defence Ministry.
Thank you. And Bandula, thank you very much for your input. And a quick thought for the day. Intelligence is not to make no mistakes, but quickly to see how to make them good. And on that note and thought on intelligence, I'll leave you and wish you a very good day. And God bless.